We both, I think, believe that monogamy is something that we take with like a grain of salt. I have a girlfriend. Bridget has a boyfriend.
Yeah, it is a triad monogamous relationship, which sounds kind of weird.
I am shocked at how common consensual non-monogamy is now.
It's not just about sleeping with each other's husbands, you know. Our lives are meshed together.
A lot of people think that, you know, when there are three people in a relationship, you're dividing attention. But we see it as we're multiplying the attention.
Many people are trying to create family in different kinds of ways, and I think a lot of people see that as dangerous.
My ex-husband is explicitly concerned. I think he's in that mindset. This is not normal. This is not how it's supposed to be.
Giving somebody an out may give them an excuse to have a permanent out.
We're not here to just wreck the world and burn it down.
It's a triad monogamous relationship, which sounds kind of weird. We do have the three of us, but we don't date anybody else. We don't see anybody else. It's not necessarily an open relationship.
Brandy and I have a relationship together. CJ and I have a relationship together. Brandy and CJ have a relationship together, and then there's all three of us have a relationship together.
I've got all kinds of people asking me like, well, how do you guys sleep? And you know, what do you do for dinner and all that other stuff. But
we eat food.
Right.
That's
well,
what we do for dinner.
We just do more of it.
People think that there's like this magical thing happening all the time, and half the time we're just chilling. Whoever has the energy for a big orgy 24/7, like, let me know. Like, tell me your secret. You know, we all work full-time jobs. I have my horseback riding. She teaches or coaches volleyball. He's always working on something on the house.
Yeah, being a veteran, former military, former law enforcement, well, like most of the guys that I work with are like, dude, you're so lucky. You got two gorgeous women. And I'm like, yeah, yes, they are beautiful. But it's not just because of, you know, the sexuality of it and all that stuff. And we literally all have a full-on relationship. So.
And there are times, just to keep it completely real, where she gets on my nerves and I don't want to have sex with her, I want to have sex with him. So like we have to figure out a way, and he gets on our nerves and we want to do things and we're just like, you go somewhere else for now. It's just what happens. It's just the reality of things. And so I think that with three people, it makes it a little bit easier to get those needs fulfilled.
Consensual non-monogamy is basically a catch-all term for different kinds of open partnerships. Polyamory being one, poly meaning many, amory meaning love. What's unusual today is that in open relationship, people are transparent. They have made an agreement with each other. They're not cheating, they're not sneaking out on the side. They've made an agreement with each other to be completely transparent about their behavior.
I think of it almost like a menu, a relationship menu, and that serial monogamy is at the top of the menu and probably the most popular dish that people order. But there's all these other things that people can order now, and they are. One in 5, that is huge. So the number of people who have had consensually non-monogamous experiences is far larger than the entire LGBT population combined.
It's really interesting that polyamory is just being discussed today, but I think if of the many reasons that it is occurring, probably the most significant is that women around the world are piling into the workforce. And as women gain economic power, they also gain sexual and social power, so they can begin to experiment.
What would you say is the biggest misconception about polyamory?
That we're all raging sluts just trying to come in and break everybody else's relationship up. We're not here to just wreck the world and burn it down. I have one partner that's currently local, my boyfriend, Scott. With my other partners who are in Baltimore, Aaron and Kyle, they have been in my life for about 4 or 5 years now. I had a weird understanding of polyamory, honestly, because you have all these rom-coms and Disney movies and everything that tells you what you are supposed to aim for in life, and I thought that's what I also wanted. I thought that every guy I had a crush on or had a date with was the one. I genuinely didn't really start my first really serious relationship until I was about 25 years old, which was an attempt at monogamy. And even though he was aware that I was already aspiring to be poly, and I was fine with being monogamous for a while, but I also wanted him to understand that I couldn't not be aware of the feelings I had for the people I had in my life, but he took that as a desire to be dishonest and cheat and deceive him or want to leave him. When I was in a monogamous relationship, and specifically that monogamous relationship, I was the most depressed and danger to myself that I had been in my whole life. After many attempts after that, we kind of just dissolved that, and I fully committed to the idea that if you're going to date me, you're going to understand that I'm going to be polyamorous.
Monogamous heterosexual family is a thoroughly modern invention. It wasn't the primary way of thinking about relationships before the modern period. You see in the 19th century a series of radical changes taking place in which you really form the monogamous heterosexual family as the primary unit. And those changes have to do with industrialization, urbanization, and all of those things. So now we're going through, again, a similar change where people are seeing that the monogamous heterosexual family is not the only way to go.
The way like maybe our parents were brought up, monogamy felt like it was necessary. It was just the way culture accepted you. It was the way everyone accepted you. Now things are a little different. Things are opening up. She's the weirdest cat ever.
So as it stands right now, we are dating separately.
I have a girlfriend. Bridget has a boyfriend. I know you haven't said that yet, but it's obvious. It's like ridiculous.
I think he'll know by the time this airs.
Hi.
Yeah, our first encounter was with another couple.
Yeah, we were both super nervous.
We had like a boozy brunch at a place, but did we go back to their place that first time?
Yeah, we went back to the place.
That first time?
First day, yeah.
Wow, we're easy.
Well, it was the alcohol.
Yeah.
The funny thing, after we left their apartment, we were waiting for the elevator, and we did like the broiest thing ever. We like high-fived.
I think we just couldn't believe we had done it. We had been talking about it for a while, and for me, the sort of like restlessness that always came at a certain point, like the 2-year mark or the 3-year mark, like whatever it is, there was always a point where I felt a little constricted or like I was curious about other people while still knowing I like loved somebody else. And so the fact that we were able to do it and then we felt so good afterwards was, yeah, it really had felt like I had just gotten a workaround. There are times when we're the only people that can host, in which case...
I get sexiled.
No!
Or she does.
Yeah.
What does sexiled look like?
Sexiling is when you look at the calendar, like, oh, tomorrow so-and-so is coming over and Bridget is hosting. That means that I need to find something to do. I'll either work late or go see a movie or hang out with a friend or go to the bar.
We've been together for 8 years now, and at least the way I feel is there's so much unspoken like certainty between us. And this, I give credit to Alex. Alex is one of the most loyal people I've ever met. Like more than I could ever even hope to be. Alex is so loyal. Like if we do skip a date night, or if he sees somebody like 3 nights a week and we haven't had dinner together yet, like I know this sounds maybe crazy to some people, but it really doesn't bother me. Because I just know at the end of the day that Alex isn't going anywhere.
So another one of the things I wanted to talk about was your guys' families, what it's like to talk about that.
I have not told my mom, I haven't told my stepfather, and I haven't told my stepmother. So really, all my friends know, you know, non-family members know. But in terms of family, I'm still taking my time on that. Before this airs, I'm going to tell them all. So.
Is there anything you kind of want to say, knowing that?
I guess that I just want them to know that I love them all very much. And it's just very, it's scary for me to tell them how I really am. Because the last thing I want is for them to reject me. That feels like it would be devastating, so.
I think people are afraid of consensual non-monogamy because it seems really not only kind of personally scary, emotionally scary, but we have some very deep puritanical roots in the United States and some deeply seated sex-negative attitudes.
Brandy and CJ are not welcome at my parents' house, and they just straight up told me that was the case. Only one member of my family has actually, like my blood family, has actually met them.
My ex-husband is explicitly concerned about my daughter specifically. I think he's in that mindset. This is not normal. This is not how it's supposed to be. So it's hard for him to grasp that.
We all get some strange looks sometimes whenever there's any kind of public display of affection between, you know, two or more of us. A lot of people think that, you know, when there are three people in a relationship, you're dividing attention. But we see it as we're multiplying the attention, because if I need some support, I have a larger support system. If I'm, you know, psychologically unavailable, neither one of them are alone. So when I explain to people about this concept, it starts to become just a little bit more appealing in that way. I had to divorce my first partner because the second partner had immigration status issues. Dissolving the marriage, that was really, really difficult for me. For a relationship that wasn't ending, that was extremely painful for me. You know, I don't have the legal protections I had when me and my first partner were married. In fact, I don't think I've had health insurance since.
There's over 1,000 different rights and responsibilities that come along with marriage, which many people getting married don't even realize. When I'm working with a polyamorous triad, marriage is not an option for them. That they're not able to opt in to any of those 1,000 rights and responsibilities.
So, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, they were doing the whole marriage equality thing. But in my head, I was like, well, Marriage Equality Act, yeah, whatever. You know, because it's never going to be equal for us. I only ask that people don't interfere with what we have. You know, don't try to make life harder for us than it already is today.
I think that monogamy can be a great option and choice, but I think that it should be a choice, because I see a breakdown in relationships as a family mediator when people feel compelled to get into monogamous relationships as if that's the only way.
I would never lose a child over a relationship they chose to be in. I won't necessarily agree or understand it.
What's the first thing you said to her when she told you?
Are you out of your mind? For me, my generation, that was called the free pass or cheating. I was worried about somebody forgetting to use protection and bringing disease into her life. And I also worried that relationships are difficult, and giving somebody an out may give them an excuse to have a permanent out and leave her hurt. They have already told me that they're never planning on changing their open status. So marriage and children will not alter the fact that they will still give each other permission. Do we talk about it? We do talk about it. Does she think I'm fully supportive of it? Absolutely not. However, she knows that I would never prevent them from being a part of our family in any way.
So theoretically, if they wanted to raise a child with a third person.
No. There will be no raising a child with a third person unless it's me there as the grandma. I'm not yet ready to accept if you did have multi-people in the lives. That would just take a lot more for me to get there on that one.
There are places where it's not safe to tell people that you're polyamorous, and many people are not out. I've seen clients lose jobs because they're polyamorous. I think employers are aware that they don't have to allow employees to express themselves in terms of their relationship status because that isn't a protected class.
I had an anonymous note written to the school board, to the district office, and my district called me in and said, what's going on? You know, what's the problem? Do you need to tell us anything? I was like, no. I was like, I'm in an open relationship, but that has no bearing on me as an educator. And they were like, that's fine. We believe you. We don't have a problem with it. I was terrified that I would be let go from my job, or that I would have people that wouldn't accept me. My students, like, they give me oxygen, like, they give me life. And so to have that taken from me would have just, like, devastated me. So I was just very aware that that could happen and that I would have nothing. And how could I provide for my kids if I don't have a job?
I advise my clients to be very careful about letting their employer know, to think about whether or not that's going to be something which could be supported in their work environment. I think for people who work with children, for public school teachers, I think there's extra danger. I think for conservative large corporations, I've seen more challenges for people who are openly polyamorous because there still are deep stigmas.
When you come out into a polyamorous community here, you are much more likely to have family dynamics that prevent you from, for example, speaking on camera. You're much more likely to feel like you are in hostile terrain.
I come from a very religious and very conservative background, and also a very loving family.
Very Southern.
Very Southern. So we are a polyfidelitous closed quad. So what that means is that there are two married couples, two partnerships, and you can think about it like a rectangle. So I have my husband, she has her husband is my partner, my husband is her partner. Like a square or a rectangle, right? We don't date people outside of that structure.
It's not just about sleeping with each other's husbands, you know. Our lives are meshed together. Mondays, Thursdays, Saturdays are the nights we spend with our extramarital partners. And Sundays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays, we spend with our marital partners.
We talked for a very long time about doing this before we did it because of the kids. It's one thing to go off and live your adult life. It's another thing to destabilize a child's life. And so we had to decide really early how we were going to deal with being open about the nature of our relationship without saying, kids, sit down. We have something to tell you. We're all very strange here. Here's how.
So how did that conversation go?
I believe her exact words were, someone has got to explain this madness to me.
That's a literal quote.
It involves a lot of trust. I mean, I, as a mother, have to think, do I trust these people? This could really, really impact my children's life for the worse.
What we were hoping for was that giving the children more adults in their lives who loved them would counterbalance giving them a strange life and would outweigh it, would say, you have more loving support, you have more people on your team. I'm a strong believer in therapy work just in general, but I think that when you have a very complicated and emotionally entangled situation in which kids are at stake, some perspective on that is not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
They do a lot of great work in terms of not only researching what happens with people who are in consensually non-monogamous relationships, but making some best practices, guidelines and recommendation. If you would go in to see a therapist and they would say, oh, you are 12 different kinds of messed up and let's, you got to stop having this affair and then we can fix you, versus, oh, I see that you're in a consensually non-monogamous relationship. What are you here to talk about?
At this point, we've been doing it long enough. We've been open for long enough that it's not a phase. It feels like really who I am. And even if it's something that we only do for 5 more years and we never do it again, it still feels like it was an important enough part of my life that I'm not embarrassed about it at all.
I mean, it's like having an extended family. You don't go to the same sibling or aunt or uncle for everything. You have each of them in that family plays a different part in the universe that you live in.
Regardless of our relationship status, people judge you no matter what. And so that's just kind of where I've come to the conclusion that you can't make everybody happy, and that's not what life is about. You're supposed to make yourself happy, and the people that you love and care about, you're supposed to make them happy.
None of us are all suited to one thing. If monogamy suits you well, great. But find your own way within that. Create your own rules, your own way of being. You don't have to follow, this religious model or that social model. You can create what works best for you.
And I would say to other parents, it's not worth losing your child over. It may be an experimental phase. It may be something they just are testing the waters or their form of rebellion, or it may be what works best for them. Who am I to judge?
I have faith in my family to be supportive of my choices, and I also, until recently, have considered my choices private because there are ways in which they would be maybe disappointed is what I really am afraid of most, And so I've sort of kept those worlds separate, and I think that it will be time to not do that soon.
I think you're never too old to fear disappointing your parents.
That is accurate.